Imagine walking home from school, minding your own business, when you spot something unusual, a brand new, high-end phone lying on the sidewalk. That's exactly what happened to 16-year-old Marcus, a bright, kind-hearted teenager from a small neighborhood. He picked it up, hoping to return it to its rightful owner. But instead of gratitude, Marcus was met with accusations. The phone belonged to a wealthy couple who, upon seeing Marcus with it, assumed the worst. Without asking questions, they claimed he had stolen it. Tensions quickly escalated, and soon Marcus found himself defending his honesty and character. What would you do in Marcus's shoes? Stay tuned as we uncover how this unexpected encounter unfolded, revealing truths about prejudice, assumptions, and courage in the face of injustice. As Marcus stood in the bustling street, clutching the sleek smartphone, he couldn't help but feel a mix of curiosity and responsibility. Raised by his grandmother, who always emphasized the importance of integrity, he knew returning the lost item was the right thing to do. He decided to wait near the spot, hoping the owner might retrace their steps. Minutes later, a well-dressed couple appeared, frantically searching and discussing a missing phone. Marcus approached them with a polite smile, extending the device. "Excuse me, is this what you're looking for?" Instead of relief, the woman's eyes narrowed. "Where did you get this?" she demanded, her voice sharp. Taken aback, Marcus replied, "I found it on the sidewalk just over there." The man stepped forward, his expression stern. "Are you sure you didn't take it?" Marcus's heart raced. "No, sir, I was just trying to help." Before he could explain further, the woman pulled out her own phone, dialing quickly. "I'm calling the police. This is unacceptable." A crowd began to gather, whispers and glances making Marcus feel increasingly isolated. He glanced around, searching for an ally, but found none. The weight of the situation pressed down on him, and he wondered how a simple act of kindness had spiraled into this nightmare. As the murmurs grew louder, Marcus felt the weight of every gaze, each one silently passing judgment. He tried to explain again, his voice steady but strained. "I swear, I just found it. I was waiting to give it back." But the man cut him off, his tone cold and dismissive. "That's what they all say." Marcus glanced around, hoping someone might step forward to support him, but the crowd seemed frozen, caught between curiosity and fear of getting involved. A young woman whispered to her friend, "He doesn't look like a thief." Another voice countered, "Why was he holding it?" Then, the words stung, each one adding to the storm building in Marcus's chest. Just as the police sirens echoed in the distance, an older man from the crowd finally stepped forward. His face was kind, but his expression was unreadable. "Maybe we should hear the boy out," he said calmly. The couple glared at him, but the man stood firm. Marcus's heart pounded as he looked at the stranger, torn between hope and fear. But before he could speak, the police car pulled up, and two officers stepped out, their presence commanding the space. The crowd parted, and Marcus felt the pressure of the moment closing in on him. One officer approached the couple, while the other turned to Marcus. "Son, we're going to need you to tell us what happened." Marcus took a deep breath, knowing every word mattered now. But would anyone believe him? Marcus's hands trembled as he faced the officer, his voice cracking slightly as he began to explain. "I was walking home from school when I saw the phone on the ground. I picked it up to return it, that's all." The officer nodded, his expression neutral, but the couple interjected. The woman's voice was sharp, accusing. "That's a lie. We've been looking for it for hours, and now he just happens to have it." Her husband added, "It's obvious he was trying to steal it." The officer raised a hand to quiet them, turning back to Marcus. "Do you have any proof of what you're saying?" Marcus swallowed hard, realizing he had no way to prove his innocence. "I didn't think to record myself picking it up. I didn't think this would happen," he said softly. The tension in the air was thick. The crowd whispered among themselves, some siding with the couple, others unsure. The older man who had spoken earlier stepped forward again. "I saw him standing here before they arrived," he said firmly. He didn't look like he was running or hiding anything. The officers exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Just then, the younger officer took the phone from Marcus and began inspecting it. "It's locked. Let's see if their story checks out." He handed it to the couple, who eagerly entered a code. The screen lit up, but something seemed off. The older officer frowned. "This doesn't look like it's been here for hours. The battery's still nearly full, and there's no dirt or damage on it. Are you sure about the timeline you gave us?" The couple hesitated, their confidence faltering for a moment. Marcus's heart raced as he watched the interaction, hope flickering. But before anything could be clarified, the woman snapped. "Are you saying we're lying? Check his bag. I'm sure he's taken something else." The officer hesitated, his gaze shifting back to Marcus. The boy's stomach sank as he realized the situation was far from over. The officer looked at Marcus, his voice firm but not unkind. "Do you mind if we check your bag?" Marcus froze. He had nothing to hide, but the idea of being treated like a criminal made his stomach churn. Slowly, he slid the strap off his shoulder and handed the bag over. The crowd leaned in closer, the tension almost unbearable. The officer unzipped the bag and carefully searched through it: school books, a water bottle, a pencil case. Nothing unusual. Then he pulled out an unfamiliar object: a silver wallet with initials engraved on it. Marcus's eyes widened in shock. "That's not mine," he exclaimed. The woman gasped, pointing at it. "That's my husband's wallet. I told you he was stealing from us." Marcus shook his head desperately. "I swear, I've never seen that before. Someone must have put it in there." His voice was filled with panic, but the couple's smirk suggested they felt vindicated. The older man from the crowd stepped closer, narrowing his eyes. "Something doesn't add up. If the wallet was stolen, why didn't you mention it earlier?" The couple exchanged uneasy glances, but quickly regained their composure. Before the officers could respond, the younger cop's radio crackled. "Dispatch, we've got a report from a nearby cafe. A customer left their phone and wallet there about an hour ago. They've just called in." The officer stiffened, holding up the phone. "Does this match the description of the items reported missing?" As the information was confirmed, the couple's confidence wavered. The woman stammered, That can't be right. We." But before she could finish, a new voice interrupted. A cafe employee had arrived, out of breath, holding a small receipt with a timestamp. "This is proof that these items were left behind," she said. All eyes turned to the couple as the mood shifted dramatically. Marcus felt a flicker of hope, but he knew this wasn't over yet. The cafe employee handed the receipt to the officer, who examined it closely. The timestamp matched the time the couple claimed to have lost their items. The older officer looked up, his voice calm but firm. "It seems these items were never stolen. They were left behind at the cafe." The woman's face turned red, her indignation replaced with visible discomfort. "Well, it must have been a mistake," she mumbled, avoiding eye contact. Her husband shifted uncomfortably, but before he could say anything, the officer added, "A mistake that nearly ruined this boy's life." The crowd murmured, their earlier judgment now replaced with guilt and shame. Marcus stood silently, his hands clenched into fists, unsure whether to feel relieved or angry. Just as he thought it was over, the younger officer spoke up. "There's something else. The wallet, it has fingerprints on it." Everyone froze as he continued. If Marcus didn't touch it, someone else must have placed it in his bag. The officers exchanged glances before turning to the couple. "We'll need both of you to come with us for further questioning." The woman's eyes widened, and she stammered, "You can't be serious. We've done nothing wrong." But her protests were cut short as the officers escorted them to the patrol car. The crowd slowly dispersed, some offering apologetic glances to Marcus, though no one said a word. The older man who had defended him earlier placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "You handled yourself well, kid. Not everyone could have stayed calm like that." Marcus nodded, his throat tight. As he turned to leave, the cafe employee called out, "Wait." She handed him a small voucher. "This is for you. It's not much, but I hope it helps." Marcus thanked her, his mind still reeling from everything that had happened. As he walked away, a sense of clarity washed over him. He had faced prejudice and judgment, but came out stronger, knowing the truth had prevailed, even if it came at a cost he'd never forget. As Marcus walked home, the day's events replayed in his mind. He couldn't shake the mix of anger and relief he felt. He had done the right thing, yet he was treated as if he hadn't. Still, the kindness of the older man and the cafe worker gave him hope. There were people willing to stand up for what was right. When he got home, his grandmother listened quietly as he recounted the story. She nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Sometimes doing good isn't easy," she said, "but the truth has a way of coming out, even when it feels like no one's on your side." Marcus went to bed that night, exhausted but proud. He knew the world could be unfair, but he had stood his ground. And that, he realized, was what truly mattered.